Okay guys, I'm back with another unboxing video of another one of my picks for the next build. This is one of my favorites. I went over it before in the intro video to my next build, which will be one of the 4 choices we're going over here. This is the one car that never quite seems to make it to the actual build process. But this time I'm determined that it be one of our choices. Now, one of the big reasons that it never gets done is that I can never decide on a color. This is the Tamiya Mazda RX-7 R1. And as usual with Tamiyas, you get the very nice box here with the picture of the automobile on a white background. I really love these Tamiya boxes. The style that they've decided to stick with their models and the packaging is just simple, to the point, says it all. Now, let's take a quick look at the box here. As you can see here, it's got a great picture of the engine itself. It's going to be great for referencing when actually building the car. Then we have it in red, one of the colors that I was thinking of, but I haven't really decided. Then we got a picture of the same picture on the box top on the sides here. And then you got it in yellow, which is another color that's a good choice for this car. And an even bigger picture of the rotary engine. It's a nice blown up view of it, so it'll give you a little more of an idea of what to do when you're building the car. Now, I do have one color that I'm contemplating for this car, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on a previous build of mine. Right here on the 1998 Pontiac Firebird Ram Air. This is Tamiya Metallic Orange, which is one of the colors I'm contemplating for this car. This paint lays beautifully. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about Tamiya paints, and this lays beautifully. Top it off with Tamiya Clear, and you get a beautiful shine, smooth and clean. I mean, this car I did very minimal polishing and wet sanding on after it was done, because it just laid so smoothly and beautifully. I didn't feel it was really even necessary to go any further with it. So this is the color that I'm contemplating for this car. Alright guys, we're going to do a little unboxing now, and we'll take a look at what's inside the box, because that's kind of what we're all here for. Okay, let's open her up and see what we got. This box has been previously opened before. I took a look at it years ago when I first contemplated building the car, and just never got around to doing it. As you can see, here's a picture of the finished model here. It's going to be a good looking car, as most Tamiya models are. I mean, I've yet to run into one that does not make a beautifully finished product. My only issue with Tamiya has been on certain items, lack of detail. But as far as building a beautiful representation of the cars, I have yet to see one that doesn't look fantastic when it's finished. So let's open up our instruction manual. And you can see here, this is a full flip out manual that, unlike the Datsun, which is an actual booklet, this one folds out to a very long single page booklet as we're going along the build process. So let's take a look at what it's going to take to put this together. Okay, here we have the engine. Looks like it's going to be relatively simple. We have the 2 engine halves, the front cover. Here we have our intake, our belt assembly, and no bottom half of the engine apparently. Alright, let's keep going and see how they're going to address that. Okay, I see they did simplify things. Looks like the bottom half of the engine is actually molded to the chassis. You're going to drop the upper half onto the bottom half. Can't say I'm too thrilled with that, because that means that we have no transmission, and it's all going to be molded to the chassis. This is what I mean about sometimes, to me, it does simplify things a little too much. It's kind of a disappointment. Alright, let's take a look here. Okay, here we have the upper structure of the engine compartment. Here we have a strut support. Okay, let's take a look at the rear suspension here. This seems to be a pretty nice unit. Apparently, again, not a lot of pieces. We have our differential carrier, our rear diff axles. Gonna get two struts on each side, and then we have our full brake assembly, and then the rest of the differential carrier. This looks like it's going to be a pretty nicely detailed piece here. If I know the Tamiya casting, it's probably going to look beautiful, even though it's not as complicated as I would have liked. And then the whole thing just drops as one unit right into the bottom of the chassis. And this is what I was referring to before. Let's get a little close-up look at this here. Let's zoom in a little more. There we go. Here we have the transmission and the bottom half of the engine are all molded to the chassis. Not my favorite, and also it looks like the drive shaft is also molded to it. So we're not going to have a drive shaft, we're not going to have a separate transmission. And the transmissions are a fun part of the build. I really enjoyed doing them because I like weathering them. Let me just show you what I did with, let's look at the Firebird again. I mean, I really enjoy building the entire structure. The transmission, the drive shaft going all the way to the back, to the rear diff, painting and detailing it all. So, I guess it's going to be a much more simplified build, and it's going to come down to all the painting that we need to do to make this thing look right. Alright. Let's take a look at the brake assemblies, which, in usual Tamiya fashion, you get the poly caps. Here you have your spindle, calipers and rotors. Nothing out of the world there. And of course, you have foldable steering, something that Tamiya is very good at. Now we're going to look at the front suspension. Okay, and this is the front subframe. Everything goes in. Your front struts there. Then you have your lower control arms, along with this lower cover. I guess that's just one piece that goes right in. So it's a very simple setup. And here we have our wheels. The usual Tamiya wheels with the pins slide right into the poly caps. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. The interior, let's see how much we're getting here. Here we have our center console with a shifter, our dashboard. Oh, apparently I think we're getting decals for all the gauges. That's good. That's a nice detail touch there. We have the 3 pedals, which is good there. And our dash, everything goes together, and we even have painting tips for the two-tone seats. All right. That ought to make for a nice interior build. Okay, and then we just drop the tub on our chassis. Prepare our windscreen. This, I'm going to guess, are the E5 and E8. I'm going to guess these are the lights. Those are the lights going into the front, the driving lights. And there's the windscreen going into the body with the mirror. It's a one-piece body, so you won't be attaching a separate bumpers. So that's going to make it a little bit easier there. And here we go. We're just sliding the chassis into the body, attaching the detachable components on the body, throwing the hood on. Rear window, the tail lights, spoiler, all the rest of the components. And we're pretty much done. So it's going to be a low parts count, and it's going to be a pretty simple build. So let's take a look at some of the parts here, see what we got. Here we go. After all these years, I've never opened up the body. So why don't we take a look at it now? Because that just means that it's going to be getting one step closer to being built. There we go. No going back down. This is the first time this thing has been exposed to air since, I don't know when, 1990, whatever. Let's pull back a little bit so we can see the entire body here. And here's the body, very nicely molded. As you can see, it's got all the detailing. Here goes the door handles. The side marker lights here, side marker lights here, although I think one of these is for Europe and Japan only, while these corner lights would be the American lights. So this may have to be removed if I'm building the American version. And here we go. Here we have all the seam lines look good, panel lines look good. I don't really see much in the way of mold lines that I'm going to have to get rid of. Again, this is Tamiya's excellent engineering and casting of the parts. It's a little bit of something here that on the front bumper that is going to have to be sanded down. See a little bit of molding lines there. But really, nothing much at all. It's a really clean body. But really, from Tamiya, do we expect any less? Okay, now let's look at the chassis here. Here you can see the transmission, bottom of the engine here. The radiator is cast into it, so there won't be a separate radiator. Here you have your drive shaft assembly. So that's all cast into the chassis, so there won't be any separate building there. Here we'll have our seats, and our seats appear to be one-piece units, not two-piece. Nice steering wheel. Let's take a look at that steering wheel there. That's really nice with the little rotary Mazda emblem in there. That's very nicely done. And the seats, you can see, are also really nicely done. You can see how clean they are. Nicely done, Tamiya. Okay, let's open up this here. Now, all of these pieces were in their individual plastic bags, as Tamiya is usually good for. Here's the interior. Not much in the way of texturing for the carpet, which doesn't really matter because I'll be applying my own carpeting anyway. The rear seats are nicely molded in there. The door panels, there's not really much to them. It is a very clean and well molded but extremely simplified interior. So I'm going to have to do something about adding a bit to that. Let's take a look at the dashboard here. Here's a dash. And you can see all the instruments are molded into it nicely. And this is a right-hand drive dashboard. Huh. So does this one... I think we have... Oh, you can build either right or left-hand drive. Oh, so I guess we have a choice of doing either or. So we'll have to take a look at both dashboards and see which one looks nicer. Here's a very nice casting here of the suspension carrier for the front, and this is for the rear. Really nicely molded. That's going to be nice to paint up and detail. Here's a handbrake. Here's your center console. Again, very cleanly molded. Here's our spindle and strut assemblies. Tamiya never fails to provide incredibly clean and well molded parts. Alright, let's take a look here. Here we have the wheels, which are beautiful wheels, nicely casted. It doesn't even look like they'll need to be dulled down or anything. It just looks like they're really have just the right amount of chrome on them. Maybe a little light wash. But I think those are going to be good. And here go our brake assemblies. Nicely detailed rotors. Very nice. Unlike the Corvette that I did in the last video, these have the calipers, the full calipers over the front and rear of the rotors. So they didn't scrimp on that. Here's our exhaust system. Nicely done. Very happy with that. Okay, here is our... Let's take a look at this here. Let's take a look at both of the dashboards, both right and left-hand drive. And they appear to both be equally molded nicely. Let's see, can we see that? Let's see if we can see them together. Yeah, it looks like the detailing is nice on both. Yep, that's going to be a tough choice, either right-hand or left-hand drive. And let's take a look at the pulleys, and that's the front cover. There's the front cover of the rotary engine. There go the pulleys. Very nicely done and detailed. Here we have our engine components here. Our intake. And here's another steering wheel. So we have two steering wheels to choose from. For both right and left-hand drive. Now let's take a look at the glass. Let's open that up. Let's just see how clear this glass is. If I can find my knife. Well, if you can't find a knife, just use the blade. Let's take a look at these windscreens here. Nice. Very nice Tamiya. Nice, clean, clear. It's a little bit of distortion, but with a little bit of polishing up, those are going to look great. And here we have our rear windscreen with all of the defroster lines engraved into it. Very nice. And we're going to have to definitely do some masking. Here we have all of our marker lights. Nicely done. The Tamiya kits, even when they are simplified, are always so well molded and so well done. Now, on the last kit, we didn't have any markings on the tires. And here go our poly caps inside here. And it looks like we have another set of tires with no name brand. I don't want to take them out of the bags, but as you can see, looks like there's no name brand on these tires either, which is really kind of disappointing. Yeah, no, there is actually something there, I think. Yes, there is some kind of name brand there. Can't tell what it is through the plastic bag. So we'll be looking at that a little more closely, but there is something there. They may be Pirellis. Alright, that's much better. The Datsun was a little bit of a letdown as it didn't have anything. Now let's look at the tread on here. Very nicely done. So, good job, Tamiya. And then the last thing we have are the decals. You can see all of our gauges. We have license plates. Window tint, I think that is, which we won't be using that. And California license plate and Mazda license plates. So, there we go, guys. That is the Tamiya Mazda RX-7. It's a very simple build. And let me just point out one thing. They bag their tires separately from everything else, so you don't have any issue with the tire rubber damaging the plastic. If only everyone did that back in the early days of this hobby. And one thing I have to point out about Tamiya, their kits are always very neat. Always perfectly mounted onto the sprues. You have very few instances of parts falling off. the screws and rattling around. It's just something that Tamiya has always been good at, is their packaging. There we go. So let's take another look here. The Tamiya next to the Firebird. The more I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that this might be the proper color for this car. I haven't made a hard decision on it yet, but I'm thinking that this may be the way to go. I've only used the color on the Firebird and on my Porsche 914, and I loved it on both. So we may have a third metallic orange joining the group. Okay, guys. That's it for choice number 3 of our four picks for the next build. I will be back in a bit with choice number 4, the last unboxing video. And then comes the hard part, is actually making a decision. Alright, well, as usual, stay tuned for the next unboxing, and also like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, give me your comments. Let me hear from you guys. I want to know what you think the best choice would be. Alright, and I will talk to you on the next one. Later, guys.